Picture this. You walk into a bank, right? You're hoping to get a loan to maybe kickstart a business or finally grab the keys to your first home. You're dressed sharp, you're super polite, you've got this rock-solid business plan in hand. You feel completely ready. But then, the loan officer looks at you, gives you this polite little smile and says, "Yeah, I'm really sorry, but we can't help you." Ouch. It feels intensely personal, doesn't it? Like they're literally judging your character. You sit there thinking, wait, I'm a good person. I work hard. How can they just say no? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're on a mission to completely pull back the curtain on this ghost that follows us absolutely everywhere. I'm talking about that 3-digit number that literally dictates where you can live, what kind of car you drive, and even your cell phone plan. We are going to master the psychology of predictability and figure out exactly how to play the credit game.
Okay, let's dive into this, because right out of the gate, we've got to squash a massive, fundamental misunderstanding. A lot of us naturally wonder, hey, if I make a ton of money, I'll obviously have a super high credit score, right? Like, people treat this system like it's a GPA for life. They think it somehow measures how successful or just how good you are at adulting. But actually, that is completely 100% wrong. Get this, you could literally be a millionaire, pulling in ridiculous amounts of cash and still have absolute garbage for a credit score. On the flip side, you could be living paycheck to paycheck and rocking a completely flawless score. It absolutely blows people's minds, but your actual income, it has literally zero to do with this number. No way, right?
And here is exactly why that is. A credit score is just a measurement of predictability. It is not a measurement of your wealth. And man, this is the psychological trap we all fall right into. We tend to think our financial life is all about who we are deep down. We think, hey, I'm responsible, I work hard, that should totally be enough. But to the banking system, which, let's be honest, is actually quite cowardly, you aren't a person. You aren't this soul with big dreams and a killer work ethic. To them, you are simply a probability. You're just a set of data points blinking on a screen. And banks rely on that data because they absolutely fundamentally hate uncertainty.
Think of your credit score kind of like a movie review. Or actually, scratch that, it's more like a box office prediction for a movie sequel. When a bank lends you money, they are essentially investing in the sequel to your financial life. All they really want to know is one thing. If we hand this person our money, what are the exact odds they'll actually pay it back with interest and on time? We all love to think of ourselves as these totally unique, unpredictable individuals, right? But when banks zoom out and look at millions of customers, human behavior gets remarkably predictable. In fact, they found that folks who pay their bills on time at, say, exactly 11 a.m. on a Tuesday are statistically super likely to just keep paying their bills on time for the next 10 years. They are hunting for your patterns.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how they actually break those patterns down into an official rulebook. In the US, this is known as the FICO score model, and it's basically chopped up into 5 distinct pillars, or slices of a pie. You've got payment history, amounts owed, length of history, credit mix, and new credit. So if we want to stop letting this system feel like some spooky mystery, we need to dig into exactly what each of these slices really means to a lender. Let's break them down.
Let's kick things off with the absolute biggest piece of the pie, 35%. This is your payment history. And honestly, it's the most straightforward part of the whole equation. Did you pay your bill on time or did you miss it? Think about lending your buddy $20, right? They swear they'll pay you back on Friday, and boom, Friday rolls around and they do. You think, awesome, totally reliable. Next time, you lend them $50 without even blinking. But what if they made you ask 3 different times and finally handed you the cash on Monday? You'd probably never lend them a dime again. Well, banks are exactly the same way. Just one late payment sticks to your credit report like gum on a shoe for 7 long years. 7 years. It is literally the single biggest indicator of your future behavior.
Moving right along, the second biggest slice is 30%. This represents amounts owed, which the pros call credit utilization. Now seriously, pay close attention here, because this is where most folks just completely trip up. A lot of people will look at their brand new credit card, see a $1,000 limit, and think, sweet, I'm allowed to spend $1,000. So if I use the whole thing, no big deal. I'm just using exactly what they gave me. But from a bank's perspective, maxing out that limit is a massive glowing red flag.
To really wrap our heads around why that is, let's use this stuffed backpack metaphor. Imagine your credit limit is a backpack. If you stuff that thing with gear until the zipper is literally screaming and about to burst open, the bank looks at that and goes, whoa, this person is stressed, they're stretched to their absolute limit, and are probably one flat tire away from total financial collapse. Using your full limit psychologically screams desperation to the system. And here's the beautiful, kind of twisted irony of the banking world. Banks only love people who do not need their money. You have to prove you can handle a debt without actually being dependent on it.
Crazy, right? So how do we actually prove that to them?
Well, we use a super simple, totally actionable mental trick. You just always keep your utilization under 30%. That 30% mark, that is your absolute golden rule. So if you've got a credit card with a $1,000 limit, make it a strict personal rule to never ever carry a balance higher than $300. By only using a small chunk of what's actually available to you, you are signaling total control rather than desperation. It keeps your score sitting pretty, firmly in the green.
Let's move to and see how this builds over time. The next 15% of your score represents your length of credit history. See, banks absolutely love a long, boring, stable story. They want hard proof that you've been managing credit over a long stretch of time. And this is exactly why you should never, ever close your oldest credit card. Even if you almost never use the thing, just go buy a pack of gum with it once in a while to keep it active. That very first card is your digital fossil. It proves your seniority in the whole system and shows lenders you didn't just wake up and start managing money yesterday.
All right, next up is your credit mix, which makes up about 10% of the pie. Banks basically like to see that you aren't just a one-trick pony. They want to know you can juggle a revolving credit card and maybe an installment loan, like a car payment or a student loan. Think of the bank like a super intense gym trainer who wants to see you can handle both hitting the treadmill for cardio and lifting heavy weights. But guys, please hear me loud and clear on this. Do not go out and take on brand new debt just to build up this mix. Taking out a loan and paying interest just for a score is literally like breaking your own leg just so you can practice physical therapy. It makes no sense. Just let this part of your score build up naturally as you go through life.
The final 10% slice is new credit. Every single time you apply for a new card or loan, the bank does what's called a hard inquiry to peek at your history. Now, if you're applying for 5 different credit cards in a single month, well, you look incredibly desperate for cash. It's exactly like a guy walking into a crowded bar and aggressively hitting on every single person in the room. You know, you don't look discerning at all. You just look like you are hunting for a quick score, rather than building a reliable, stable relationship. To a bank, that behavior makes you look like a massive, massive risk.
And this brilliantly illustrates the deeper, honestly unspoken psychology of this entire system. The credit network is fundamentally blind to your actual life circumstances. It only sees the cold, hard data. If you're struggling, you might miss a payment because of a scary medical emergency, or you might max out a card just because your rent suddenly went up. That is survival behavior. But if you're comfortable, you pay in full, you keep your utilization super low, and you leave old accounts open. That is strategy behavior. The brutal truth is, the system heavily punishes survival and richly rewards strategy. This creates what we call the wealth effect, where people who already have money get lower interest rates and build even more wealth, while folks who are struggling get slapped with higher rates and just get completely trapped. But wait, here is the most empowering realization you can take away from this explainer. You do not need to be rich to hack this system. You really don't. You just need to be boring. Seriously. Excitement is the ultimate enemy of a good credit score. Excitement is impulsively applying for some random store credit card at the mall just so you can snag a 10% discount on a pair of sneakers. Excitement is financing a car you can't quite afford just to show off. If you truly want an exceptional score, cultivating a highly boring, highly predictable financial life is literally your ultimate superpower.
So let's put all of this into a super actionable 4-step game plan. Step 1, automate everything. Set up autopay for at least the minimum amount on every single bill. Think of it as a safety net against that one oops, I forgot moment that could tank your score. Step 2, get a credit card and use it exactly like it's a debit card. Guys, this is a massive hack. Just buy the stuff you were going to buy anyway, like your everyday groceries, and then pay that balance off in full every single month. You are essentially using the bank's money to build up your stellar reputation without giving them a single cent in interest. Step 3, keep that oldest digital fossil account open forever. And finally, step 4, just ignore the marketing noise. You really don't need that shiny new card. All you need is steady, boring consistency.
As we wrap up this strategy, we really need a quick philosophical mindset shift. At the end of the day, your credit score is just a metric. It is not your self-worth. There are folks out there parading around with perfect 850 scores who are absolutely miserable, just drowning in hidden debt to maintain the illusion of a good life. Your score is merely a tool. Think of it as a ladder to reach high places when you need lower interest rates for, say, buying a home or starting a business. But you don't want to live on the ladder, right? You want to use the ladder to build a real foundation solid on the ground.
So the crucial point is this. Yes, definitely build your credit, but more importantly, build your actual wealth. Keep an eye on your score, pay on time, and keep your utilization low. But whatever you do, do not obsess over it. Because the ultimate goal of personal finance isn't just to hoard some high credit score like a high score in a video game. The ultimate goal is to reach a point where you don't even need to ask a bank for permission to live your life. That is the real game we're playing. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. Are you currently playing just to impress a cowardly algorithm, or are you actually playing to build your own true independence?